Good morning and welcome to this week's news conference. Today's focus is on last week's experience visiting our sister city, Zibo, China. Mayor Schember will describe the unique Zibo experience and how we expect both Zibo and Erie to benefit from the renewed relationship. Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Try to control yourselves. Good morning and thanks, Renee. I've never been treated better in my entire life, and I've never been made to feel more valued than during my 5 days in Zibo, China. It was truly an incredible experience. I don't know if I can really capture it here, but I'm going to try my best. Zibo actually has 12 sister cities, but Erie was their first one in 1985. There has been no active relationship between Zibo and Erie since about 2010, so the goal of our trip was to reestablish the relationship, which is a mutually beneficial sister city relationship. I believe we accomplished that with flying colors. But before I get into detail about the outcome of the trip, I want to recognize and thank the 4 people that went with me. First is Glenn Renaud. Glenn has a lot of experience developing business with China, and he's been there over 10 times. He approached us about a year ago about the value of rebuilding our relationship with Zibo. We would not have gone had Glenn not began and continued those conversations. Second was Li Hong Ni. Li Hong was born and raised in Zibo. She is now an American citizen who lives in the Philadelphia area. She served as our interpreter and also our customs advisor. Li Hong was invaluable in making this visit a huge success. Third, Gary Horton went with us. Gary had actually been to Zibo twice before during Joyce Savacchio's administration. Gary introduced me to several Chinese that he's known for over 25 years. His connections and insight were very helpful. Fourth, Chris Groner was with us. Chris made great connections, and I'm really glad the Chinese business people got to meet Chris. Chris will be working hard in the months and years ahead on the details related to further business relationships between Zibo and Erie. The presence of these 4 people made the value of this trip multiply exponentially. I really thank Glenn, Li Hong, Gary, and Chris for being with me. Next, I'd like to share the total cost of the trip with you. The city of Zibo was actually very generous with us. The cost to the city for the entire trip was $4,378.89. That included the cost of our flight over and back, 2 overnights in hotels in Beijing, and the cost of the gifts that we gave to government officials. We actually incurred no expenses during the 5 days and nights we were in Zibo because the Zibo city paid all those. The source of our trip funds was about 6 weeks worth of interest from an economic and development loan fund that the city created from funds from a grant in the 1980s from a HUD program known as a UDAG grant. I also want to thank Gannon, Mercyhurst, Edinburgh, Penn State Barron, Cathedral Prep, Villa Maria, and Mercyhurst High Schools for providing many shirts and other gifts for Zibo. Our days in Zibo, our typical days, began at 8 in the morning and ended about 8 at night, sometimes a little later than that. We were always picked up at 8 in the morning in a small bus, and we had an escorting car in front and behind the bus, and we spent the day visiting a lot of different places. Among those places were many Zibo businesses. We visited a medical instruments business, a solar-powered company, and that solar-powered company actually makes a solar-powered umbrella, which lights up at night, and a solar-powered car. We visited a polyurethane company, a recycling company, a manufacturer of machines that make bricks, I'll be talking more about, and a textile company that employs over 20,000 people. We visited educational institutions, including a high school with 5,000 students and a university located in Zibo with 32,000 students going there. We visited the main hospital that has 2,000 beds on the east side of Zibo. They also showed us a new hospital that they began building about 2 years ago on Zibo's west side. That new hospital will add about 1,000 beds when it opens in June. We visited several arts centers. At one of the museums, we saw incredible ceramics Some of these ceramics dated back to 10,000 BC. In a country that's, about 250 years old, it's hard to comprehend a country having things that go back to 10,000 BC. We also saw ceramic vases, huge ceramic vases. A couple weeks ago, I described our ceramic vases down in City Hall that we got from Zibo as massive vases. The vases I saw over there were 3 to 4 times as large as the ones we have in City Hall here. Zibo is actually a world center for ceramic arts. We visited several sports arenas, including a soccer, which they call football, stadium that seats 450,000 people. We also had incredible 1.5 to 2 hour dinners and lunches while we were there. Meals are a little different there. They're very formal, a very formal process. Many toasts are made during the meals, and extended conversations take place throughout the meal. During the meal, 25 to 35 different plates of various foods are served on the rotating center of the circular dinner tables. I only ate at these meals and was never hungry while I was in China. When I got home Easter Sunday, I was very surprised to get on the scales and found I had lost 5 pounds while I was there. I believe one of the most valuable things we can learn from the Chinese is how to be very healthy eaters. During my entire visit to China, I did not see one person that looked overweight to me. I mentioned visiting the company that manufactures brick-making machines. That company, which is called Gongli, is run by Dora's mom. Dora, as you may recall, is here in Erie from Zibo. She's currently a junior at Villa Maria High School. She gave me great advice before the trip. And Dora is actually here with us today. Can we give Dora a round of applause? I not only had a great tour and a great conversation with Dora's mom, I also met Dora's sister and Dora's brother-in-law, who also both work at the plant. Dora's sister and brother-in-law speak incredibly good English. Dora's mom started Gongli plant about 30 years ago. She just finished building a second facility to expand her business, which she showed us, and she has very big plans for the future. And Dora, your mom told me that when you finish college here in America, you're going back to Zibo to work in the Gongli plant. We also received several gifts during the week, many of which are displayed here. We had 2 formal meetings while we were in Zibo. The first one was an opening meeting on Monday evening with Mr. Zhou. Now, Mr. Zhou is actually the top government official, and there were also several other officials at that meeting. Mayor Yu of Zibo actually reports to Mr. Zhou. So Mr. Zhou and I both gave opening speeches at that get-together, looking forward to the week. He presented me with a beautiful ceramic vase that you see right here. The second formal meeting we had was Friday evening, when Zibo Mayor Yu and I signed the Memorandum of Understanding that you see on the table here. This memorandum lays out the guidelines for official and non-governmental cooperation and information exchange. You will all receive a copy of the memorandum. There's copies of it here on the table. Feel free to pick one up. Here are 4 items that I believe are kind of the most important and kind of the essence of the memorandum. First, we will conduct comprehensive, mutually beneficial exchanges to strengthen our cultural understanding. Second, we will introduce and recommend that cooperative partners invest and trade in each other's cities. Third, we will promote educational exchanges, including trying to develop a teenager exchange. And fourth, we will promote cooperation in public health, culture, tourism, and sports. These 4 statements, as I said, kind of capture the essence of the relationship we're trying to build through this Memorandum of Understanding. Based on our conversations in Zibo, I believe that our top priority is for the hospitals. Now, their modern hospitals have only been in existence for about 20 years. They are very interested in learning from our more experienced healthcare professionals. I believe Zibo's second priority is for student and teacher exchanges between our high schools and colleges. Finally, their business people are also very interested in finding ways to do business with Erie businesses. You're welcome to read the memorandum, and please ask me if you have any additional questions once you've looked at it. The next step in building our relationship is to have Zibo officials come here for a visit to Erie. We are now finalizing a formal letter to Zibo Mayor Yu for a delegation to come here to visit Erie at their earliest convenience. That letter should be going out by the end of the day tomorrow. We are hoping that a Zibo delegation might visit Erie. We were originally hoping that they might visit Erie late summer or early fall this year. But based on our conversations, it sounds to me like they probably won't be able to make it here till next summer. But Chris Groner, Glenn Renaud, and others will begin working immediately with Zibo officials to try to begin those mutually beneficial exchange programs. You may remember that 2 weeks ago, I ended the press conference prior to our visit to Zibo with a quote from advice that Dora had given me about the visit. That was the best advice I received about the visit, to be very honest. In fact, I ended my speech at the memorandum signing by reading the same closing remarks that Dora had given to me. I want to end today with the very last paragraph from Dora's speech. Zibo is not Beijing or Shanghai. Erie is not New York City or Los Angeles. We have similar latitudes. We are both close to water. We are perfectly matched sister cities. Dora, based on my experience last week, I totally agree with you. That wraps up today's press conference. Chris, Gary, and I, and Dora will be available for interviews. Thanks very much.